They had cake. Store-bought, with too much frosting. A paper flag stuck in the middle and half-hearted applause when someone announced the oldest vet in the room. I was by the vending machine, where the light flickers and the coffee tastes like regret. My chair doesn't move fast, but I like the corner. You see more from here. That's when I saw it happen. The young Marine, Riley, I think, was staring at the tiled floor like it had opened beneath him. His fists were clenched on his thighs, breath coming too fast, too loud. No one noticed until his chair scraped back and he doubled over. Some sort of panic. Maybe memory. Maybe both. I didn't move. Couldn't. But I watched. Kelly Briggs, she was already there. On the floor beside him like she knew it was coming. One hand on his wrist, the other gently guiding his shoulder back. Not loud. No drama. Just whispering words no one else could hear. Grounding him. And he came back. You could see it. The breath slowed, the shoulders settled. And still she stayed with him. Not rushing. Not making it about her. Just steady. I narrowed my eyes then. Not because I was suspicious, but because I'd seen that kind of calm before. Once in 71. A combat medic in Pleiku held a man's life with nothing but her hands and a heartbeat. Same silence. Same focus. A week later, I said it out loud, to no one in particular. Just under my breath. That girl's the real deal. Turns out I should have kept my mouth shut. It was the following Tuesday, same lounge, same cheap chairs. Support group. Kelly sat near the west window like always, nursing a lukewarm tea. She didn't say much, unless asked. But when she did, people listened. Dean Harwood was talking again. Loud, theatrical. Something about breaching a compound in Kandahar. His stories always sounded like Hollywood extras. Kelly cut in. That's not how it works, she said. Quiet, but firm. You don't breach alone. Not unless someone's already bleeding out. He laughed. Mocking. Please. You're a grease monkey. You work diesel at a truck stop. Women like you don't pass selection, let alone kill squads. She didn't flinch. Unit Eclipse 3. Shadow Tier. Call sign Delta Echo. It got quiet. You're saying you were in Eclipse? Someone asked, cautious. She nodded once. Elba Ridge. 46 days evasion. Shattered collarbone. My partner zip-tied beside me, bleeding out. I kept him talking until he didn't answer anymore. She rubbed the inside of her jacket then, where a button was stitched near the lining. Below it, her palm flexed. Scar tissue, pale and sharp. They erased us. But they couldn't take what I burned in to remember. Some of us believed her then. Not because we wanted to. Because she knew too much. But the next week, it changed. I ran a check, said a voice across the room. Greg, Army Intel. She never served. No records. Nothing before 2020. She's been reading from forums. The silence was instant. Cold. Someone dropped a coffee mug. Kelly stood. Still. Jaw tight. Then came the sound. Boots on tile. Police. Kelly Briggs, hands where we can see them. You're under arrest for impersonating a federal combat operative. She didn't resist. No one moved. You start to notice people when you sit still long enough. I'd watch Kelly come in every Thursday before the group started. Same routine. She always arrived early. Took the chair near the west window, facing the parking lot, but angled enough to keep the rest of us in view. She never brought a phone. Just tea, black, no sugar, and sometimes a paperback with the cover bent. She didn't talk much at first. Just nodded politely when someone asked how she was. Said she worked diesel at a truck stop north of Clarion. North 17, off the service road. I knew the place. Run by a vet named Hollis, one arm, real sharp about his tools. Hard place to work, I'd said once. She nodded. That's the point. Later I realized that answer was about more than work. She started opening up slowly. Not in big stories. Just pieces. The way someone in the field would describe terrain before describing the mission. Once, a new guy, Mitch, had asked how she got so good at pressure points. She'd helped calm down a vet mid-episode with one hand behind the ear, another at the shoulder blade. He was twice her size. Didn't matter. Kelly had shrugged. I learned where the silence lives in people. It's usually the same place the pain hides. Nobody knew what to say to that. But I noticed Dean Harwood didn't like her. Not just didn't trust, didn't like. He was the loudest guy in the room. Always talking about Kandahar, about kills, about doors kicked in and women kissed later. He had the medals, sure. But they always looked polished too clean. Then one night he claimed he breached a garrison solo. Just him and an M4. Said it was like slicing through butter. Kelly looked up from her seat. That's not how it works. What? Dean barked. She set her tea down. You don't breach alone. If someone lets you through the gate, it's not combat. It's execution. He laughed, loud. Please. You fix trucks. You think you know tactics? She looked him right in the eye. Unit Eclipse 3. Shadow Tier. Call sign Delta Echo. More laughter. Louder this time. A few chuckles. Greg, the guy who would later call the cops, leaned forward. Never heard of that. You wouldn't, she said. We were unlisted. That sounds convenient. Kelly didn't answer. Greg pressed. Say you were there, how'd you survive Elba Ridge? I know the terrain. No one gets across without satellite or support. I didn't have either, she said. Just painkillers, a broken collarbone, and a partner zip-tied at the wrists. We ran at night. Slept under brush. Ate roots and our own skin oils. He bled out on day 39. I carried his tags to the pickup point. How'd they find you? I asked. I hadn't meant to speak, but I had to. She touched the inside of her jacket. Rubbed that small button. Just once. They didn't. I made it to the checkpoint on foot. Took me 6 more days. Greg was quiet then. No one laughed. Her details didn't sound rehearsed. They sounded lived in. The kind of stories people don't tell unless they have no choice. I've known a few real ghosts. They don't perform. They just remember. The next week, things changed. Greg stood up in the middle of the meeting. Said he ran a background check. No service records. Nothing before 2020. Just a woman with a diesel license and a clean credit file. She's been reading from military forums, he said. That's how she knows this stuff. I felt my stomach turn. I looked at Kelly. She didn't flinch. Didn't defend herself. Just stood, slowly. That's when we heard it. Boots. 3 cops came in. VA police, not local. One of them had his hand on the holster. Kelly Briggs, hands where we can see them. You're under arrest for impersonating a federal combat operative. Someone gasped. No one moved. She nodded once. Didn't resist. Her hands were steady as they cuffed her. Eyes straight ahead. I watched them walk her out the door. And the worst part, the part that still guts me, was the look on Greg's face. Not pride. Not justice. Just cold satisfaction. Like he'd won something. But I saw what he didn't. When Kelly passed me, her eyes flicked to mine. Not angry. Not scared. Just disappointed. Like she'd seen this play before. Like she knew exactly how far the truth could fall before it hit bottom. And then she was gone. Most fakes crack within the first hour. That's what Detective Ray Donovan told me later. He'd worked stolen valor cases before, small-time grifters with half-true stories and borrowed medals. They always buckled under pressure, couldn't keep their lies straight. But Kelly didn't buckle. 3 days in custody. No confession. No inconsistencies. Donovan pushed hard. Tactical misdirections. Jargon traps. Silent treatment. She just answered. Not with bravado, but calm clarity. Like she was walking through a minefield she'd already mapped in her mind. You ever build a perimeter in heavy weather? He asked on day 2. Kelly didn't pause. If it's storm static, you'll hear the fence pulse before the alarm trips. Crack pop, then a low hum. Not loud, but wrong. Donovan looked up sharply. He didn't say anything at the time. But that answer stuck. He called in someone else after that. Lieutenant Grace Holloway, Intel Command, retired. She knew the silence Kelly described. Knew the way people carry memory when they've been burned by it. What's the alarm code for an airstrip hold under blackout? Holloway asked, eyes narrowed. Red 3, green 4, blackout sweep 5, Kelly said. But you don't wait for 5. If 3 clicks but 4 doesn't, you've already been seen. Holloway didn't speak again. She just got up. Left the room. And didn't come back. By the end of the 3rd day, Donovan brought her a tray himself. Nothing fancy. Just tea and a protein bar. You're not eating, he said. Kelly looked at him. I don't eat when I'm watched. I'm not watching, he said quietly. I'm listening. She sipped the tea. Set it down. Then reached inside her jacket. Pulled the small button free from its seam. Rolled it between her fingers like a coin. Donovan noticed something then. The inside wasn't fabric. It was metal, steel, dulled by heat. She held it out. Check the inside. He did. Etched into the base, almost invisible, was a coordinate string. 11 digits. What's this? Kelly didn't smile. Didn't explain. That's for what comes after, she said. If anyone makes it that far. What does that mean? She didn't answer. Instead, she held out her left hand. Opened her palm. Showed him the scar. 3 short lines. 1 curved slash across the middle. Not self-inflicted. Not surgical. Donovan stared at it a long time. What is that? She answered without hesitation. The burn mark from a field ID tag. They melted ours off after Elba Ridge. Used acid and heat. But I pressed mine into the skin before they took it. He swallowed. You branded yourself? Kelly looked away. I wasn't going to die nameless. Donovan didn't say much after that. Just stood, button in hand, mind working. Then he made the call. He dialed a number from memory, one he hadn't used in 15 years. Commander Evelyn Rourke, he said. We've got a problem. And her name is Kelly Briggs. The Clarion County Jail doesn't look like much from the outside. Concrete walls. Chain link fence topped with razor wire. But inside, everything hums with surveillance, doors that beep open, lights that flicker without warmth, the air smelling faintly of bleach and forgotten time. Commander Evelyn Rourke walked in alone. No uniform. No rank. Just plain clothes, slacks, a black coat, hair tied back. But the guards moved like she still wore stars on her shoulder. One glance from her was enough to make a man step aside. She didn't ask for an escort. Didn't ask for backup. "I need to see Kelly Briggs," she told the sergeant at the front desk. The sergeant typed without looking up. "You with federal oversight?" "No," Rourke said. "I'm with what's left." It took 11 minutes to bring Kelly from her cell. She walked steadily. No cuffs. Her expression didn't change when she saw the woman waiting in the small visitor room. Just stood in the doorway, eyes fixed on Rourke. Rourke sat at the table. Motioned to the opposite chair. Kelly didn't sit. "You came." Rourke nodded. "I had to." "No. You didn't." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Rourke spoke softly. "I signed the burn order." Kelly nodded. "I know. I gave the families folded flags. And lied to their faces." Rourke didn't argue. Kelly stepped forward. Unrolled her right sleeve. Turned her arm palm up. There were 5 tattooed dots, 2 on top, 3 on bottom. Simple. Precise. Rourke's breath caught. Her voice barely a whisper. "God help us." She looked up at Kelly. "You were Delta Echo." "I am." "You shouldn't exist." "But I do." Silence again. Then Kelly leaned over the table. "They played our anthem while they tortured me." Rourke looked away. "I held out for 43 days, Kelly said. "You knew where we were. You could have come." Rourke's voice broke. "We couldn't. The mission was compromised. We had to. You didn't have to erase us." Rourke didn't respond. Kelly stepped back. "You buried us to protect a failed op." "I buried you to contain the war," Rourke said. "If word had gotten out." Kelly cut her off. "If word had gotten out, people would have known the truth. That we were sent in without support. That we were expendable." Rourke didn't deny it. "I saved 2 lives because of your resistance," she said quietly. "Operatives Bravo 9 and Kilo 3. They were rescued because of the diversion you caused." Kelly blinked. Her jaw shifted. "They're alive?" Rourke nodded. "But they each think they're the only survivor." The silence thickened. Kelly leaned against the wall now. Her voice softer. "I had a partner. Thomas Vega. We called him Verse, because he spoke in rhymes when things got bad. He didn't make it," Rourke said. "I know. He died zip-tied to me." She looked down at her hand again. The scar was visible, just beneath the palm. The room felt too small, too white. Like the kind of room where truth came to die. Rourke finally stood. "Why now?" Kelly asked. "Why come?" "Because you didn't crack," Rourke said. "You should've. Most ghosts do. But you didn't." She walked to the door. Then turned. "There's a file. Hidden. Buried in a vault in Arlington. It confirms the existence of Eclipse 3. Your name's in it." Kelly met her eyes. "You gonna release it?" "No." "Then why are you here?" Rourke looked tired. Older than her years. "Because I needed to see your face." Kelly didn't reply. Rourke nodded once, hand on the door. Then, without turning around, she said. "They burned your record. But they couldn't erase what you carried. Not all of it." Kelly watched her go. The door closed. And the silence returned. 3 weeks later, someone repainted the back wall of the Broadstone VA lounge. No fanfare. No budget. Just fresh gray paint covering 20 years of fingerprints and coffee stains. A few of us stood there watching. I was in my chair again, same corner by the vending machine. Light still flickering. The others chatted quietly, watching the paint dry. Nothing important. Then I noticed him. Jacob Mills, former radio tech, used to stutter when nervous. Now his hands shook from Parkinson's. But today, they were steady. He held a small carving knife in his right hand. Pressed into the drying paint with care, each motion deliberate. At first, no one knew what he was doing. Just a quiet old man scratching at a wall. But then the letters formed. Delta Echo. Carved in shallow lines. Not too big. Not dramatic. Just enough. Someone whispered, "What's that?" And Jacob didn't look up. Just said, "A name." Another voice spoke, a woman near the coffee table, soft-spoken army nurse from Kuwait. She was one of us. A few heads turned. Some nodded. Some didn't. I watched from my chair. The carving finished now. Rough. Uneven. Real. If the government won't recognize her, the nurse said, we will. Jacob stepped back, brushing paint dust from his coat. He looked tired. Someone cleared their throat. She lied to us. No one replied. Then I spoke. She didn't lie. She endured. A few heads turned toward me. I rarely talk during meetings anymore. Pain has a way of closing your mouth over time. She knew we wouldn't believe her, I said. But she came anyway. Sat with us. Listened. Helped. I looked at the carving again. She was erased. Not by choice. Silence followed. Then Jacob, still staring at the wall, said softly, I've seen men carry pain. But I never saw anyone carry silence the way she did. A quiet hum filled the room. Recognition, like mist. It didn't come in shouts or arguments. It came in nods, in the way people looked at the wall a little longer before turning away. That night, someone left a folded note beneath the carving. I found it early the next morning, taped to the wall beside the vending machine. It said, she remembered what they forgot. She spoke so we wouldn't forget too. No signature. Just ink. The next day, a new item showed up in the display case beside the flag stand. An old button. Stitched to black cloth. No card. No explanation. But we knew. They tried to bury her. But we carved her name into the wall. Sometimes that's all we can do. Sometimes it's enough. They opened the storage unit on a Tuesday. No press, no flag waving. Just a low sun over the Denver skyline, and wind pressing against the door as the latch clicked open. 7 crates. Each marked with a serial code that no longer appeared in any government registry. The padlocks weren't hard to cut. But no one touched anything right away. The silence did its work first. Kelly stood still in the center of the unit. She wore the same faded jacket from Clarion, sleeves rolled, collar stiff. Her hands didn't tremble. To her left, a woman named Rue Taylor, former Demolitions, Eclipse 3. Left leg braced with steel, eyes darker than memory. To her right, Nora Wells, Sniper, Eclipse 3. Small-framed, nearly blind in one eye, still walked like someone measuring wind speed. They didn't speak. Behind them stood others. Not many. Just enough. 7 crates. Each addressed to a name scrubbed from history. Each sealed under burn orders from a war that was never acknowledged. Donovan was there too. Not in uniform. He wasn't investigating anymore. Just watching. These were logged as ordnance disposal, he said quietly. But someone screwed up the manifest. sent them to impound instead of incineration. They've been sitting in Denver County storage for 19 years. Kelly stepped forward. Lifted the lid of the first crate. Inside, everything was wrapped in oilcloth. She reached in, drew out a pack. Her pack. Black canvas. Zipped down the center. Still faintly marked with ash from Elba Ridge. Inside it, unit tags. Shadow maps. Encrypted gear logs. Dried blood on one strap. She looked at the others. Rue opened hers. Inside, a combat knife with the initials R.T. etched beneath the grip. A compass. A folded field letter written in pencil and never delivered. Nora found a dismantled scope, wrapped in silk. She held it in her hands like something sacred. "I thought all this was gone," she whispered. "It was supposed to be," Kelly said. "We were all supposed to be gone." The others gathered closer. A former comms tech named Lyra found the crushed remains of her transmission gear. She stared at it a long time. Then sat on the floor and wept into her scarf. No one tried to stop her. No one filled the silence. After a while, Kelly stepped to the last crate. Smaller. Lighter. It bore her name. She opened it slowly. Inside, wrapped in blue cloth, was a single dog tag. Charred around the edges. Still legible. Briggs, K.L. Eclipse 3. Delta Echo. She traced the letters with her thumb. Then closed her eyes. This wasn't validation. Wasn't justice. But it was something. Memory. Proof that they had existed. That they had bled, fought, disappeared, and yet still remained. Someone placed a portable speaker on the ground. Quiet music. Not military. Something older, slow, wordless strings that held the space together like thread. Kelly looked at the others. Their faces had changed in the years. Worn, scarred. But not broken. "I came back to finish something," she said. "But maybe this is enough." She turned, reached down, and placed her hand on her crate. The word left her lips before she could stop it. Home. And in the silence that followed, the others did the same. 7 women. 7 crates. No cameras. No medals. Only history, reclaimed by the hands that had carried it. That night, Donovan returned to the Denver field office and deleted the last open file on Briggs. In the comment box, he wrote, "Case closed. Survivor confirmed." He stared at the screen for a while. Then shut off the light. Some truths are written in ink. Others in scars. The kind that never fade, only deepen. Not from pain alone, but from the quiet insistence of memory refusing to be erased. Kelly Briggs was never reinstated. No official apology came. No folded flag was returned to her hands. But across a dozen VA lounges, her name began to spread, not in headlines, but in whispers. In the spaces between coffee cups and heavy silences. Delta Echo, they said. Sometimes just, her. Someone etched her initials into the back of a plaque in Fresno. Another carved a small 3 into the wood above a unit photo in Baton Rouge. A nurse in Pittsburgh started every group session now with one line. "If you carry silence, you're not alone." Kelly still works diesel in Clarion. Still walks to the edge of town on Sundays to sit beneath the oak trees, where radio signals once bent low and static hummed through the leaves. She doesn't speak of Elba Ridge anymore. But once, she left a note taped to the Veterans Board near the post office. Folded, unsigned. Inside it said, "When justice is denied by power, memory becomes resistance. And when a name is wiped from the record, it's the hand-carved one that endures. I visit that wall in the lounge sometimes. The carving's faded now, but the groove is still there. You can run your fingers over it. Feel where the letters catch. Delta Echo. That's all we need. That's all that matters.